looking so fresh. When I walk by, breaking their necks. Waiting in line at the team store. Now I'm feeling fly like a condor. Eyes on me when I walk through the door. Man, I wish I bought a couple more, cause I really love my city. It was worth every penny. If it were at my show, then I know they gon' tip me. Think I might add a couple patches. If you think it's ugly, you capping. Now my whole outfit matching. Never going out of fashion.
Welcome on in, everybody. It is Talking Friars. I'm Ben Fadden, where I talk about the San Diego Padres and a little bit about some other San Diego sports. Hopefully, everybody is doing well. Padres, they're a different team leaving Sacramento than they were going in, but they did still take 2 out of 3, and that is what matters the most here. Now, long term, what matters the most is going to be the health of these big guys. Like, let me be clear, but right now, what matters the most is they did take 2 out of 3. They had a 500 road trip. And when your road trip is playing in mid-40s in Chicago and then playing 3 games in a minor league ballpark, and one of them was a day game, and it's in Sacramento. And, oh, by the way, you played that day game without Jackson Merrill, without Fernando Tatis Jr., without Jake Cronenworth. You had Randy Vasquez on the mound to start that game. You lost the Dylan Cease game, and you have a 500 road trip. Like, considering those circumstances, I would take that. And so I'm okay with it. Obviously, I would have loved to have a better road trip. There was a ton of mistakes at Wrigley Field in that Chicago series, but considering the circumstances, it's not the worst thing in the world. And we sit here, and the Padres are 10-3, I think. Yeah, 10-3. Going back home, day off tomorrow, and then face the Rockies on Friday. There is Mike Shildt here saying Tatis could have played today in an emergency, and he and Jake Cronenworth are both tracking well to play. I'm opening the tweet up. Okay. Mike Shildt says Tatis could have played today in an emergency, and he and Jake Cronenworth are both tracking well for a Friday return. So that's great news. Ben Higgins tweeting that out. It was probably from the Padres TV postgame. That's great. I'm not surprised to see Croney be on track to play Friday, but for Tatis to be on track to play Friday, that's definitely encouraging. I was hesitant last night after the game to overreact to anything that Mike Shildt was saying, because if you remember with Jackson Merrill, he was saying the same thing about not being overly concerned, and then he ends up going on the IL. Now, with Merrill, it seems like, yeah, it is precautionary, and they don't want to have it be a bigger thing, but they weren't expecting, it didn't seem like that they were expecting to put him on the IL in the first place anyway. So fingers crossed that, Tatis will continue to feel well and not have to go on the IL. He pretty much said that yesterday to Kevin Acee after the game. This was after I'd already recorded the video, because this was like probably past 11, I think, that I saw this. But Tatis, let me find this quote here. Let's see how I wake up tomorrow. This was last night, so how he woke up today. But it's very short notice, not going on the IL or nothing like that. So this could have, it seems like this is like an injury scare, but ends up hopefully not developing into anything. Croney, if you didn't watch yesterday, he had that swing, couldn't run it out to first. There was the cramping. He got hit in the ribs earlier in the season. I want to say it was in Chicago. Yeah, and it was very cold. I think it was the first game in Chicago. And right when I saw that, it's like, yeah, that's going to hurt. That's not going to feel great. I've never dealt with that, where you deal with cramping days later from it, but hopefully that's all that is. And it seems Croney, I believe he told Kevin last night that he was he may lobby to play in today's game. So he's going to be good. And then, Tatis, obviously, like, it's a big thing to not have Merrill in the lineup. But when you looked at this lineup today, and you have Arraez leading off instead of Tatis. You have Bogart. No, shout out to Xander. He had a good game today. Went 3 for 5. If we had Xander playing for the Padres, but the ballpark was in Sacramento, then he may live up to his contract because he had a pretty good series in Sacramento. He was hitting the ball hard, using that left field line, some hustle plays, beat out a ball today, I think, for a hit. And then he scored both of the Padres runs today. One was a sac fly, one was a diving attempt, I think, by J.J. Bleday in center. Didn't catch it, and Xander scored. But yeah, he had a great series. But with no Tatis, no Merrill, no Croney, this lineup, it lacks, obviously, depth. But when those guys were healthy, it was top 6, and then who knows what you're going to get from the rest. This lineup today, Arraez, Bogarts, Manny, Sheets, Oscar Gonzalez, Jose Iglesias, Jason Hayward, Brandon Lockridge, and Martin Maldonado. Now, I say that, and the bottom 5 hitters in this lineup, Gonzalez had 2 hits, Iglesias had a hit, Hayward had 2 hits, Lockridge had a hit, Maldonado had a hit. So they combined for 5 hits in this game. No, 7, sorry. 7 hits in this game. And Gavin Sheets, the 4-hitter, went 0 for 3. He had an RBI, though. And Luis Arraez went 0 for 5. So this was kind of one of those, I feel like, all right, yeah, they got hits, but how long can you actually expect that? How consistent would that production be? So, yeah. Going into today, I was expecting these guys, maybe not this to be the exact lineup, but these guys to be in the lineup. And while they did have a lot of hits, like 12 hits for the Padres, 2 hits for the A's, there's a big difference there. Ultimately, it was still only a 2-1 game. So it's not like the Padres blew the A's out here and used all those hits to their advantage. Early on, they had some opportunities to come through and didn't. They went 2 for 14 today with runners in scoring position, left 11 guys on base. Now, I'm not saying that wouldn't have happened if Merrill and Tatis and Croney were in this lineup. Or I should say Tatis and Croney because Merrill's already on the IL. But obviously, those guys, the talent that they have, the power potential, especially Tatis that he has, and the start that he got off to, it's just more of an intimidating lineup when you have those guys in the order. So obviously hoping the best there. Tatis, if you missed it last night, he swung. I used swing again. He swung, and you could tell left shoulder wasn't feeling great. And then went into third base, I want to say later in the game. Maybe that was earlier in the game. I forget. But he goes into third base, and you could tell he wasn't feeling great there as well. And so he exits the game. But it seems like the latest updates there are that they're optimistic for Friday. That's both for Jake Cronenworth and for Fernando. Jackson Merrill going on the IL, obviously, that's a big blow. But Brandon Lockridge can still impact the Padres in different ways. We saw it today. The one run that the A's scored, Lockridge threw out the runner at home, but Maldonado went behind home plate instead of in front of home plate, kind of like a Hosmer. And that cost the Padres there. That cost him because the A's ended up scoring. Now, it was very close. I mean, I have the screenshot up on my Twitter. Very close. But it is a game of inches, and so that cost him. Or maybe if Lockridge had a little bit more zip on the throw, then even if Maldonado was standing there, they still would have been able to get the out. But it is what it is. Padres win, though. That's what matters the most here. But yeah, with Lockridge, like, obviously the speed. Defensively, I'm good with him in center field. I know he was out today, but like, I think it was a grounder to second or a grounder to short. And he's busting it down the line, and he actually makes it pretty close at first base. And maybe some fans will be like, well, Ben, he has to do that because that's all he has. He doesn't have the power. His speed is his biggest plus for this team. But I'm still going to commend the guy for doing it because At some point, if he keeps doing that, someone's going to make an error because they see him busting it down the line and they go quick and they make a bad throw. Something happens. So the Padres will be rewarded at some point with Lockridge if he continues to do that. So yeah, Merrill, obviously him being out like offensively, yeah, Merrill's already had a couple of home runs this year, or a few maybe. And we know the hitter that he is and the leader that he is on the field in the lineup. And so that's a blow because now instead of having Hayward and Lockridge share time in left, now you bring Oscar Gonzalez up and it's Hayward, it's Oscar in left, and you have, obviously you have an offensive downgrade in Lockridge in center. And so it's just like, yeah, and you still have Gurriel on the roster. Yesterday, Yuli Gurriel, because he's on the roster, Iglesias had to start the game in left field, which I saw Mets fans on Twitter were like, why the heck is Jose Iglesias playing left field? But, I mean, this is the explainer. Oscar hadn't yet gotten to the stadium yet because he had to make his way from El Paso, wherever El Paso was playing. I'm not going to act like I knew where they were playing. Makes his way, and he gets there in the middle of the game, or at least into the dugout in the middle of the game. Maybe I think it was like first couple of innings he got into the dugout, but he's not there to start the game. So you have Lockridge obviously in center because Merrill's on the IL. You don't have the guy that replaced Merrill here yet, so that shortens your bench. And it's a lefty on the mound, so you want as many righties as possible in the lineup. And so who's playing left field? You're not going to have Hayward play left field because you want the righty. Iglesias is an infielder. Athleticism, it'll be for a game, whatever. You do it. Wait till Oscar gets there. Or maybe Iglesias, thinking about it now, the Padres probably saw, okay, we'll get Oscar at some point during the game. It'll be for a few innings that Iglesias plays left field. Now, it's good timing because Croney obviously exits the game and Oscar barely got there. So he goes to left. Iglesias goes from left field to second, and they make that transition that way. But obviously, yeah, Merrill's one of the best players. You just go around the league. If the Phillies lost, name a player, Bryce Harper. I know Bryce Harper's probably a better comparison there would be Manny, but in terms of like veteran player, but just Merrill is one of the most productive players on the Padres. He's one of the best players on the Padres. So you take Freddie Freeman or Mookie Betts off the Dodgers lineup. You take whoever off the Yankees lineup. You take whoever off the Phillies lineup. You take, obviously we're seeing it with the Braves when they don't have Acuna and what impact that will have. There's still stars on this team. There's still talent on this team, but it's a different lineup configuration, and it just makes it tougher, obviously. So at the same time, though, if I'm going to view this from like the glass half full, is that it's an opportunity for Lockridge to play every day, and let's see what he can do, audition to stay on this team. And then for Oscar Gonzalez, it's also an opportunity for him because maybe he can prove here offensively, because I don't think he'd be playing left field yeah, it would be between Lockridge and Oscar because Hayward's a lefty. So scratch that. But I think with Oscar, with DH, if he hits and Yuli Gurriel struggles, both guys are right-handed. Maybe Yuli Gurriel's thought of as more of a power guy, but he's also 40, 39, whatever he is. He's old. And you have Oscar, who was hitting, I think, like 400 in AAA, or maybe that was spring training, but really well. And if he comes up and hits, why not have him be DH against lefties? And he's someone that can go play left field. He can DH. He could play right field if you absolutely need him to. Why not? So Gurriel's time is going to be limited if Oscar can hit. Or maybe even if Gurriel doesn't hit, and then they try with Tirso, once Merrill comes back, and they want to make a decision there. So that's something to keep an eye on, obviously. But yeah, it doesn't seem like we're gonna have to run out that lineup on Friday of Arraez, Bogarts, Manny, Sheets, Oscar, Iglesias, Hayward, Lockridge, Maldonado. Well, Maldonado may not play. Who's starting? Is it King? No, King pitched this series. Kyle Hart, maybe? I forget who. Is it Diaz that catches Kyle Hart? I forget. I think Kyle Hart's pitching the series opener. Maybe that's Pivetta. Now that I think of it. No, it's Hart because Hart, I remember he pitched before Pivetta that first time around. Didn't he? Or was that no, sorry. Hart was after it was Vasquez, Pivetta, and then Hart. So yeah, Pivetta probably pitches Friday. Anyway, you get the point. Have Croney there, have Tatis in the lineup, makes the lineup better. Great. And gotta capitalize against the Rockies. Because last year the Padres weren't able to do that. Now they played well against the Dodgers, but it's series like the Angels where they got swept, and the Rockies where they won, I think, 5-8 last year. You can't do that against the Rockies. It's got to be better than that. So take advantage of those opponents. If you win those games and you have sweeps against some bad teams, then you don't have to play as well against the Dodgers. If you run into a buzzsaw, then it's not going to be as bad for you in the standings. But overall, I'm still happy with the start for this team. Obviously, 10-3, considering some of what has happened, especially in the Sacramento series and just this road trip overall. Again, going 500 is not the worst thing in the world. When you played in the mid 40s in Chicago, you had some really bad pitching outings on this road trip, and you come out of it 500 and you're 10-3. Move on and hopefully go sweep the Rockies. At least take 2 out of 3. And then the Cubs come to San Diego, I think, starting on Monday, which should be another interesting series. But I would think the offense would be better at Petco, and the Cubs' offense would be better too. But that'll be better at Petco than it was in the mid 40s at Wrigley. Let me check the chat here real quick before I get into the series here. If you want to join the show, click that link that is near the top of the chat. SDSU Man 1 with the super chat. Thank you so much. He asks, your opinion, Ben, should Arraez get a contract extension or should he be traded for some pitching? Well, if I'm AJ Preller and I'm trying to win this year, which is my goal every year, I'm not going to trade someone that doesn't strike out and is near the top of your order. I'm not doing that just for some pitching. I'd be fine with having Arraez here on a contract extension. I don't think he's done terrible at first base. If Arraez goes, then I think the question to ask is, who are you going to fill him with? Who's going to replace Luis Arraez? Are you going to get that in free agency? I know money comes off the books, but how much is that going to cost? There's going to be more strikeout in whoever you bring in, but maybe you get more power there. But then at the same time, I feel like as Merrill gets stronger, Tatis, if he's going to be healthy, which that is an if, Manny, there is power still in this lineup. So personally, I would like to have Luis Arraez be extended, and I don't think it would cost a ton, just because of who he is as a hitter, and just the profile of the player. But I don't think you should do it for super long. I think, how old is he right now? Let me check that. Luis Arraez, 28. Okay, so give him like 5 years. Take him till he's, 33? I think that's fine. I don't think it would cost $20 million a year. I think. Could you get him for, let's see, is $80 million too much for Luis Arraez? 5 years? Because what is he making right now in his final year? He's making 14 mil. So you would give him a little bit of a raise. He probably would want to look for more than that, but he's a guy that keeps getting traded. The Twins traded him. The Marlins traded him. The Padres don't want to trade him, but they're open to it if the right package comes along. To me, that's like, that makes me question what would he get? What would that market be? And that's maybe part of why I don't think there's a rush to give Arraez an extension, is because the Padres probably feel confident that it's not going to turn into a bidding war with someone in free agency, because this isn't someone that's going to hit you 30 home runs a year. Right? And some teams don't value him defensively. So, and they haven't had him in the clubhouse for like what that provides. They don't see the work ethic behind the scenes. And so the Padres could have an advantage there. I personally don't see an extension happening right now, but it could. If you're giving me one of those two options, yeah, I'm giving Arraez a contract extension. I'm not trading one of my best contact hitters that could totally come up with a huge hit with a runner in scoring position or get on base in the postseason, and then you have Lockridge pinch run or something, and then he's in scoring position, and then boom, tie the game in the 9th inning or go ahead. You get the point. So he's valuable to this team. No, I'm not going to be trading that guy. All right, thank you for that. Much appreciated. I will get back to the chat here in a little bit, but just going through this series, Padres won this one 2-1 today. They were down 1-0. It was again, that was Maldonado going behind the plate, and that kind of allowed Shea Langeliers to score. By the way, had a little bit of a tough day behind the plate. He excuse me. There was one inning where what is with my voice? Holy cow. Pause 1 second. I need a drink of water. Sorry about that. All right. I think my voice is better now. Kind of. So, what was I saying? Langeliers. He botches a ball. Instead of turning his glove, he just tries to have the glove go with the ball, if that makes sense. Goes back to the backstop. And then he gets knocked in the nuts the next pitch. So, I think on a bunt attempt by Lockridge. But he scores the first run. And then Oscar Gonzalez, with his first big contribution for the Padres, ended up being big. 1-1 game there in that 3rd inning on the single, which Bleday probably would say he should have caught that ball because he dove, and it's not like it barely touched his glove. Like, that was catchable. That was in his glove. But couldn't come away with it, and then Xander scored. And again, shout out to Xander today for the effort, beating out some ground balls, or at least one. The balls down the line, being in scoring position, and then the sac flies, the hustle on those. He had a good series. So as much as people want to, crap on the guy, and deservedly so in some instances, look, he's in a tough spot because he signed a $280 million contract when that's not what he's worth, but that's what he was offered. So if you're in that spot, we all would have signed that. So I think sometimes the expectations for him are a little bit too high. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be criticized, but sometimes they're a little bit too high. We got to realize the player that he is. And I thought he was definitely impactful today, and I think he was impactful during the Sacramento series. And he hasn't gotten off to the worst start this season. I'll say that. Gavin Sheets with that sac fly in the 5th, and that was the only scoring. The rest, no more scoring the rest of the game. So another day to shout out the bullpen. Adrian Morejon, no runs. Jeremiah Estrada, no runs, a strikeout. Jason Adam in that 8th inning. Man, he was nasty. Really nasty. That changeup, I think it was a changeup. I think it was the first strikeout that he had. The movement, go back and watch if you didn't. But the movement on that pitch, that was maybe letter high or at least belt high, and it dropped. No shot for whoever was up. I think it was either Langeliers or Bleday to hit that. So nasty that he's our Tanner Scott from the right side this year. and last year too. He was nasty as well. But yeah, I would like to have him be extended. Talking about extensions. Robert Suarez continues to do a great job so far this season. All save situations for him this year. No runs allowed yet. And he got his 6th save on the year. So 6 of the 10 wins locked down by Robert Suarez as saves. Overall, yeah, again, there was a lot of hits, but not great with runners in scoring position. But hopefully that would have improved and will improve when someone like Fernando is back in the lineup. When Merrill comes off the IL, hopefully, I think he would be eligible at the beginning of that Astros series, if I read the schedule correctly. The runners in scoring position would improve. But it was good to get the win. Like, it's not the prettiest win, but it's also kind of like a Mike Shildt win with sac flies and Randy Vasquez. I think I was probably just going to skip over him, and I shouldn't have. Sorry to Randy. 5 innings, 1 earned run, few walks, including first or second inning, but not much damage. Not a lot of strikeouts, but he pitched to the contact. And he settled down. At one point, he had retired, I think, 9 consecutive in a row. Thought he was working pretty quick. And you hand it off to the bullpen. Like, with Randy, that's what we need is give us 5 innings, keep us in the game. Obviously, 5 innings, 1 hit, great. But 5 innings, keep the Padres in the game, and hand it off to the bullpen. And hopefully the day that Randy pitches, it's a situation like today where you have Morejon, Estrada, Adam, Suarez. You have your big 4 ready to go and healthy. Yeah. If not, then hopefully it's 3 of the 4, and then you have like Yuki Matsui. Or, Wandy, shout out to him. He's had a good start to this year. You have someone be able to come in, Alec Jacob, someone come in and be able to do that job there in that 6th inning before you can go to the big guys. So I don't think this is a win that like we're gonna look back on favorite games of the year, and you look back at the series finale on a Wednesday afternoon in Sacramento against the A's, but they can't take away this win, just like they couldn't take away the win in Game 1 of the series, where the Padres won that one 5-4. Manny is another guy that had a pretty good series against Sacramento. Multiple hits today. He had a couple of hits in Game 1. RBI double in the first. That one wasn't hit too hard, but then he had another one that was hit hard. Croney with the homer made it 3-0. That Manny double that was hit harder made it 4-0 in the third. And the Padres scored one more run. That was on that Nando bomb. I mean, absolutely crapped on that baseball. And I think hit it on top of the Padre clubhouse, because there's not stands back there because they're playing in a minor league ballpark. It does look like on TV, it does look like it's a pretty good minor league ballpark, but there was a lot of talk on the broadcast and talking to players like, hey, what is it like? You like the field? You like this minor league ballpark? Propping it up almost. And it's just like, let's remember why we're playing at a minor league ballpark. It's because the owner of the A's didn't care about staying in Oakland, didn't want to stay in Oakland bad enough, or else he could have made it happen. Because if you listen to the city, they, at least from what I remember, they were willing to do it. But it's pretty clear the A's could have made a better effort, and they didn't. So he wanted to go to Las Vegas, and he was going to find a way to go to Las Vegas. So now there's no stadium ready in Las Vegas for them to play in. I mean, they could have played the Las Vegas Light Stadium, but that didn't happen. They're playing in Sacramento. And now, obviously the Oakland Coliseum, that didn't happen because I think their lease was up or whatever. Their time was up. And if you're Oakland, why would you want a team that's already leaving? Why would you want them to still stay in your city? Right. But there's no stadium for them to play in, big league stadium. So they play in Sacramento. The media room is it's a shed from probably like Home Depot. It's a joke. And they're going to be there for a few years. They have a Sacramento patch on one of their shoulders, the right shoulder, I think. Then they have a Las Vegas patch on the left. They don't want to call them. They don't want you to call them Sacramento A's, the Las Vegas A's. They want you to call them the A's. But yeah, um, I'm kind of surprised there's that many people that show up in A's gear to these. I mean, it's not a lot of people because it's a minor league stadium, but still, I'm a little surprised. How did I get on that topic? Oh, because it's a minor league stadium. The Tatis bomb. Nobody is out there because, again, minor league stadium. There's the grass. I think there's the grass a little bit in the outfield. Down the first baseline, there is. So it looked like an okay ballpark to watch a game, but it's just embarrassing that we're even in that spot anyway, because they should have just stayed in Oakland. If you don't want the team in Oakland, then sell the team. You know, you want to be in Las Vegas, or at least if you want to be in Las Vegas, don't lie to fans and talk about your efforts to try to stay and they couldn't make it work. It wasn't your fault. Just say we wanted to be in Las Vegas. And A's fans will probably still hate you, but at least you're telling the truth. Uh, it's just a sensitive spot for me and probably other San Diegans because of what happened with the Chargers leaving. But getting back to the Padres, that 5-4 win, I thought Michael King wasn't the best, but and I think he said post-game that he thought he could have gone longer. He worked into the 6, didn't get through 6, but credit to Morhone for getting out of that. And then Adam and Suarez there didn't allow a run in the 8th and the 9th inning. 5 earned runs against Luis Severino. That's pretty impressive. And right out of the gate, when the Padres get on that lead there, first inning like that, and eventually it was 4-0 at one point. Yeah, you don't want it to be 5-4. You want it to be 5-0, 5-2, something like that. But right when they got out there in front, it's like, yep, all right, we're not in Chicago anymore. It's not mid-40s. They're back to playing in an environment that they are used to playing in. They're playing in better baseball weather. So that was good to see. But yeah, it sucks though, seeing these big first run innings and then they give it up pretty much immediately. Are they still winning games? Yeah. But obviously when you do give that back up immediately, essentially, there's that pitch count that goes up. It just has an effect. It has an effect on the starting pitcher, and then maybe more bullpen arms have to be used because the starting pitcher can't get, through 6 innings or something. And that was the case with Michael King, which he says he could have, but Shildt didn't allow it. In game 2, Shildt did leave Dylan Cease in for a while. And I know it's Dylan Cease, but 9 earned runs allowed in 4 innings. And some fans were like, if you're trying to keep your team in this game, why are you allowing Dylan Cease to continue to pitch like this? But if you're Mike Shildt, you probably realize, I don't know what's going to happen with Randy Vasquez tomorrow. It is Dylan Cease. He'll work through it. And it is a minor league ballpark, so hopefully the offense will score a bunch of runs. But also, Croney going out, Tatis going out. I think that was before Cease was done. At least one of them was. And then probably Shildt, maybe he saw all right, yeah, let's just have Cease, go as long as he did, 78 pitches, because this isn't our night. And we'll go to Jacob, we'll go to Matsui, we'll go to Wandy, and we'll save our big guns for tomorrow, which is what happened today, obviously. And we'll just do that. In a game on April 8th, where clearly Cease is just hanging a ton of pitches, and he doesn't have it, and the score kind of gets out of hand, and then there's injuries that happen. It was 3-0 Padres, and then it was 6-3 at the end of the first. So right there, you're like, sure, it's the first inning, a lot can happen, but right there, it's like, all right. It's also the first inning for the A's offense as well, and you're not going to go to the bullpen after one inning and you have Dylan Cease on the mound, you still want him to, have that pitch count a little bit up because you don't want him to go from probably 40 pitches to trying to go to 100 pitches or 90 pitches the next outing. I think that was one of those where it's like, you got to measure. You got to measure, all right, what's the probability that we're actually going to win this game? Should I be using relievers and cutting Dylan Cease's start, to 50 pitches or whatever? Should I be doing that in this game? And the answer was no. And Mike Shildt, I think he said this at some point last year about eventually, if we win, yeah, it's great to sweep a series, but if we just take 2 out of 3, win the series, you're a playoff team. And that's what the Padres did here in this series. And so I know they're not going to win every series, and there will be frustrating losses like there already have been this season. I know there's not been a ton. They're 10-3. There's going to be some frustrating losses, but sometimes you have to, what is that? What's the saying? Lose the battle to win the war. And the war was taking 2 out of 3, and the Padres, they won the war in this series purely based on the wins and the losses. But any level of concern for Dylan Cease? I mean, I'd say a little bit because it's not like this is his first time struggling this season. But it's also Dylan Cease, and I can look at the track record and be like, yeah, what are the odds that he's going to do this all season? Because let's look at his track record, his recent track record. 2022, 32 starts, had a 2.20 ERA, so clearly he wasn't having very many bad outings. 2023, the ERA is closer to 5, so, more than doubles the ERA. But he still makes over 33 starts. And if I were to go in the game logs for that year, I assume that it wouldn't be a ton of blow-up starts. And then last year, he has a sub-4 ERA. And a lot of this is he gives you innings, probably 180-ish. He gives you 30-plus starts consistently each of the last 4 seasons. Since 2021, he's done that. And if you sucked and had these blow-up outings, you wouldn't get to that total. So it is, for me, part of it is looking at that track record. But I would be a little bit concerned. The velocity is there, though. That is a positive. But first time around, he went 4 1/3, walked a couple of guys, 4 hits, gave up 3 earned runs. One of them was that home run. But then the next time, it was a Dylan Cease outing, 6 1/3, 1 earned. But then yesterday, I don't know what it was. Using the ballpark as an excuse, that's not good enough for me. I would definitely use the weather as an excuse before I used any ballpark as an excuse. So, like, those that pitched in mid-40s, they have more leeway, I guess, to use that as an excuse than guys that pitched in Sacramento this series. And, with Cease, again, for me, it just goes, I don't have much more to add on Cease. Like, it just goes back to the track record. Yesterday was bad. He was leaving a lot of pitches hung over the middle of the plate. Is he going to do that start after start? He doesn't have a track record of doing that start after start. You could point to the postseason, but that's a small amount of games. I'm talking about, because what I care about right now is the majority of his starts throughout a season. Well, we can worry about the postseason when we get there, but the majority of starts in a season, he's the good version of Dylan Cease. So if he continues to do this, then yeah, I'll be more concerned. But right now, I'm a little concerned, but I'm definitely not anywhere near panic mode about Dylan Cease. I'll tell you that. Anything else to go over from yesterday's game? I already gave my reaction to the injuries yesterday and gave the latest update on Cronenworth and Tatis. hopefully they'll be good to go on Friday, essentially. Manny so far this season, after today, he has a 340 average, a 900 OPS. And remember, Manny was not he was not fully healthy at the beginning of last year. And just throw the whether he was healthy or not out the window, just look at the stats. It wasn't good at the beginning of last season. Really months and months into the season last year. But it's not a coincidence that he has a 900 OPS. He's hitting well over 300. He hit his first home run of the season during this series. He's playing good defense at third, and the Padres sit at 10-3. It's not the NBA where it's one person, and I'm not saying all NBA teams it's one person, because it's and a lot of times sometimes it's two people, and that can really help. I'm not even saying that it's two people for the Padres and that's all they need. But when Manny performs well, it has that snowball effect, chain link effect, whatever you want to say. Hopefully you get my point. It has that effect because pitchers, they see that it's Manny Machado up there and he's performing well. And then that can open some things up, maybe get some better pitches to hit in the lineup from other guys around Manny. And just a locked-in Manny. I mean, where he's at in the lineup, there's probably someone on in front of him. And there could be a threat behind him in the order as well. So, encouraging the start for Manny, and especially encouraging considering and big that Merrill is going to be out for not the next 10 days because it was backdated to the 7th, I want to say. Yeah, because Merrill didn't play the 7th. He would be eligible to come off 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10. The 17th. But are the Padres playing on the 17th? Off day on the 17th, so the 18th at Houston is when he would first be available to come off. And with that, I think that's when he would come off. It seems like it's going to be close for when he would have been ready to come back. Either the end of that homestand or the beginning of the Houston series. So might as well put him on the IL, backdate it to the 7th, and you can give Oscar Gonzalez the opportunity to come up. And, oh, by the way, that's better than having to play Jason Hayward every day or having to play Iglesias in left field, because you have Merrill taking up a roster spot. So I'm fine with it. And especially, I'm more fine with it when it's a 10-3 start. We're not in September. If it was September and this is happening, one, Merrill wouldn't be on the IL because Merrill would not go on the IL. And that's that. That's what I believe. Because if Merrill, and I know it's a hamstring, I'm not saying that he would be full explosive. They may have, if it was September, maybe he'd be DHing and not playing center field. But he'd be in the lineup. That's what it seems like, is that it's not, sure, it's a tight hamstring, but that's not something that would stop Merrill from playing if this was the most important time of the season. So that's the good news. All right, before getting to the chat, shout out partners of the show, Gaglow and Bros Famous Cheesesteaks and Garlic Fries. Their main location is on Friars Road. You can check them out. The link is in the description for all their info. They've got a wider variety of things if you go into their shop on Friars Road, but at Petco Park, inside Snapdragon Stadium, they've got the garlic fries, cheesesteak fries, cheesesteaks. They have the cheesesteaks with the cheese whiz on there, so check them out. Great food there, so hopefully you will go get some Gaglow and Bros the next time you're at Petco coming up. If you're going this weekend or you're going for that Cubs series or you're going for the Wave match this weekend at Snapdragon, facing the undefeated Kansas City Current, so that should be a great matchup. SDFC, by the way, is on the road. They're going to be at Colorado, playing, I believe, a half hour before the Wave start. So that's going to be a busy Saturday. Padres at 5:40, SDFC at 6:30, Wave at 7. Yeah, pretty packed Saturday night. Breaking Tea, they've got Padres and Aztecs shirts and sweatshirts. Click that link in the description for the latest. They've got Merrill drops. They released a Gavin Sheets, Holy Sheets shirt as well. So they've got great stuff there. And then SeatGeek code Talking Friars, $20 off your first order when you sign up with your email. Again, code Talking Friars. All right, we had Albert who was at that game in Sacramento. Devin says, no Tatis, no Merrill, no problem. It would be a problem long term, but when you're playing the A's and you got a good start from Randy and you have the lockdown bullpen and you played some fundamentally good baseball, like shout out to Jose Iglesias in I think the 5th inning. I don't want to forget to mention that bouncer that was on the shortstop side. It was on Xander's side of second base. Iglesias playing a little bit up the middle because there was a runner on first. He goes to Xander's side of the bag, grabs it, touches second, throws it to first for a double play. And if a runner would have gotten to second base there, that ball goes through. Maybe the runner's on third. I don't think so, but maybe. Let's say he's on second. It's a runner in scoring position. That I think was the game-tying run up at the plate. So, yeah, it's pretty good to have Iglesias be on the bench to be able to have him come and play the infield. He made another good play, I think, earlier in the game as well. Like, obviously, super comfortable on the infield, especially middle of the infield. And yeah, just some of the time. Because I don't want to say all the time because it was pretty bad numbers wise with runners in scoring position today. But it got the job done against the A's. First team with 10 wins. Yep. Your San Diego Padres. Jay, I don't think you were alone. Jay says, ain't going to lie, thought Padres would drop this game with all the adversity they were facing. Yeah, I mean, you have Randy on the mound. Sometimes a question mark there with the walks. The lineup that was thrown out there, obviously coming off of a bad loss last night. I don't think anyone would fault you for thinking that the Padres would have dropped this game. Devin says, Cease was probably tipping his pitches. He had pitched in less stellar fashion before, but last night's start was the worst I've ever seen. Almost reminded me of the playoffs against LA. Maybe he was tipping his pitches, but major league batters don't need what pitch is coming when it's hung over the middle of the plate. He did that a lot last night. So maybe it was tipping, but it's one thing if he makes good pitches and the offense is hitting, then that's one thing. It's another thing when, I mean, there were pitches that were middle of the plate. Breaking pitches that didn't go to the bottom of the zone. It was floated over the plate. Yep, a win is a win. Shocker, more Dodger fans are in the chat today when this has nothing to do with the Dodgers, but thanks for coming in, I guess. Shout out Randy Vasquez, most consistent starter so far. I mean, he did have that really good start that first time around, then he had a really good start today. So, okay, yeah. Majority of the time. Yes, a lot better than yesterday pitching wise. Today was great. They gave up 2 hits the whole game. Luis says, not playing great teams. Well, we're playing who's on the schedule. We can't control that. I will take 10-3 every day of the week. I don't care who they're playing. Because They can't take away those wins. Giants just walked it off. I thought you said Giants got walked off. I was about to get excited for a second. Dodgers won today. Anyone want to hear from Mike Shildt? Courtesy of 97.3 The Fan, post-game audio is here.
Yeah, team effort, hard earned. I mean, it's a good win. Finish up a road trip. Quick turnaround. Going to play regardless of circumstances. Guys got after today, man. It was a really gritty win, and Vasquez did a great job setting the tone on the mound.
You talked about Bogarts the other day. I imagine you saw more what you had been seeing from Bogarts today, just maybe the results kind of coming
Yeah,
out.
you just see good at bats, and that's the thing that we talk about occasionally. I don't get too wrapped up in the numbers. The numbers can be skewed either way. But I've seen a guy in Bogey since the first live batting practice in spring training look like a guy that's really locked in, has a good swing going. So, I've seen good swings, good at bats, taking his walks, and doing some damage in the zone, a couple doubles a day. Really impressive at bats by Bogey.
Do you have any updates on Tatis and Cronenworth?
I do. Nothing, Crony, we still feel like cramp, still getting some of that out of there, inflammation fluid a little bit out of there. We do expect him, but we'll hold our feet to the fire with him being in there on Friday. Toddy had a good night, good day today. Could have been available in a pinch. Clearly stayed away from. So he's optimistic. We're optimistic as well. For Friday, just to be clear. We're optimistic for Friday, but again, we got some time between now and then to evaluate it. So we're right.
Both tracking for Friday. Good news there. Yeah, again, good game from Xander. Diego asks, "Hey Ben, what level at Petco are those Gaglione cheesesteaks you mentioned?" So they have one, I believe, on the upper deck, down the first baseline if you were to go that way. But the main one is, if you guys know where the Valley Sports San Diego pregame postgame desk was, it's right across from there. So it's down the third baseline, really left field. Not left field by the Western Middle, but down the left field line, like down the third baseline, but where left field is, if that makes sense. I can't remember the exact section, but I think I can pull it up for you here. Section 124. .124 and I think 319 are the two sections. Thanks for asking that. One thing I wanted to get to as well was Vlad Jr. He signed that big 14-year, $500 million contract. I think a ton of it is a signing bonus, by the way, but regardless, $500 million. Good for him. He's a talented player. Do I think that's a lot of money for him? Yeah, but good for him. Blue Jays, they had to do it. He was asked, this is from Keegan Matheson, who covers the Jays. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was asked what advice he got from his father and immediately started to crack a smile. Vlad says, "Trust God. My dad told me to trust God and to get the penny that I could from the organization." End quote. The whole trust God part, okay, fine, good. But that last part, my dad told me to trust God and to get the last penny that I could from the organization. All I'm going to say there is we're lucky that we have Jackson Merrill. Because there's Jackson Merrill and then there's that attitude. There's that mentality. To say that publicly, it's one thing to say that to your agent and be like, I want the biggest contract, get every last penny that you can. Okay. But to say that publicly, I mean, maybe you have to respect it a little bit for him to, have the what to say that publicly. But man, I would never say that publicly. I mean, the contract's final, so regardless, like the money's going to come in. So maybe he just doesn't care. But this is the organization that drafted me, or not drafted because he was from the Dominican, right? But you get the point. Signed him, developed him. Sure, very talented, but this organization helped you get to where you are, and you're the face of the franchise. Don't you want to win? Just as a team player mentality, you know that these quotes are going to get out there. I would not be saying, yeah, like I was told, my dad told me to get the last penny that I could, every penny that I could from the organization. Me personally, and I know I don't have millions of dollars, so I can't relate, but me personally, if I'm Vlad and I haven't won and I'm trying to win, I don't want to get every last penny from the organization because that's not going to help me win with this organization. I know that like this is his one time to get his huge contract. And you can think that, but like don't say that publicly. That's terrible. But for the Padres to have a guy in Jackson Merrill that was willing to take the team friendly contract and said before he even signed it, he was saying this publicly. So that gave the Padres some leverage. Obviously, we know what his deal was, the 9 years, 135. He said publicly before that he didn't want to screw the organization. He obviously respect, he knows what he's worth, the value, all that, but he didn't want to screw the organization. He wants, he didn't want to sign this super long-term deal that really locks the organization up. Just give me the money, set me up. I'm good for life. My family's good. It shows that you care about me, you value me in the organization, and he got that, and that was good for him. And he mentioned how like he wants to allow the Padres to make other moves around him. I'm not quoting him, but essentially that's what he was saying. That's what he's talking about here with that contract. Let's just be thankful. I know that we could point to like some people that hate Manny will be like, well, didn't Manny do the same thing? Because he just went to the highest bidder and he made it public in spring training to get a new contract and say because he said he was going to opt out at the end of the season. And so he made it about him and he got all his money. And we have him in the organization. And if you want to view it through that lens, okay. I choose. Did he say that publicly though? Like Vlad just said? And has there been money around Manny to spend on other players? Yes. It's just a difference. I just immediately when I saw that Vlad quote, I thought of Jackson immediately, and I was like, thank goodness we have that. Thank goodness Jackson took that route instead of the route that Vlad took. Because if you're a Blue Jays fan, Vlad's probably your guy, but you're happy with what he said there, that he wanted to take every penny from the organization. And that's what he was told by his dad. And like, okay. If you're in favor of that, then I don't know, like, do you totally care about the Blue Jays winning? If you're like, yeah, I'm totally fine with him wanting to take every penny from the organization. Because if you're looking at that and like, yeah, Vlad's totally worth $500 million that he's going to get throughout the entirety of that 14-year contract, I don't think you know enough about how aging works and just what Vlad's going to look like down the road. I don't think that's going to look great. I think the Manny contract will look better than Vlad's contract down the road. And I know some people don't think the Manny thing's going to work out down the road, and it may not. You pay for his prime years, but Vlad, especially the situation that the organization is in, they're not in the Padres spot with making the post. Blue Jays made the postseason, but the Padres have had more success than the Blue Jays have had, at least in the postseason. So, and I'm talking about recently, obviously, not in the 1900s. That was just an interesting comment. Thank you, Jackson, for being you. And thank you, AJ, for not trading Jackson to the Nationals in the Soto deal. James Wood's talented, sure. But I'm happy that we have Jackson Merrill. That's what I wanted to say about that. All right. So Padres Rockies coming up Friday, Saturday, Sunday after the off day tomorrow. Hopefully Tatis and Croney will be back in the lineup on Friday. And the Padres can take advantage of playing the one team in the NL West that is not trying to win. The Rockies are 2-8 as we speak. Negative 18 run differential. Yeah, let's not go 5-8 against them this year. Flip that and go 8-5, and then you go 3. That adds 3 games over 500 to you. That could be a big difference come the end of the year. So they needed to treat this like it's their World Series coming up this weekend.